Welcome, team players and NFL fans around the world. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the Green Bay Packers in 2022. The hosts of Local Football Flavor have watched over 1,000 hours of tape this season, and we are going to give you the accurate breakdown of what happened to this Green Bay Packers. They get themselves in a hole, then they have to win out, and the transformation that happened to that team in their pursuit of trying to make the playoffs until Detroit ended that hope. 2022 Green Bay Packers coming up right now. Welcome to Local Football Flavor, connecting the fan bases of the NFL. The 2022 Green Bay Packers were a team of ups and downs and all the way arounds. When we found out in the later half of the season that Rodgers had never disclosed that he had a broken thumb since week 3 and kept playing through it, it brought up a lot of questions going on with what was really going on with that team. Because when you watched the Green Bay Packers play, you saw a couple of undeniable facts that weren't always utilized to their best of their ability. First off, they were one of the very few teams in the NFL that could successfully run through each of the 6 main gaps of your offensive line. They were also a team that could complete at an exorbitantly high rate passes that were attempted between 5 and 15 yards. Yet when we look at their offensive efficiency numbers and their overall results, it actually doesn't show any of that. It shows a team that was ineffective, middle of the road at best. And the one thing that we saw consistently throughout the season was Aaron Rodgers would at times, especially in the second half, only decide to throw the ball 20 yards or more downfield and consistently turn drives off if they were not getting defensive pass interference called against them. And yes, Rodgers is one of the best all times, up there with Tom Brady, in getting officials to call calls for him, especially in the defensive secondary. But the bottom line was that wasn't consistently happening this year. Davante Adams wasn't there to get his jersey tugged upon. And when the Green Bay Packers overall took their offense out of the game by Rodgers' decisions of putting the ball downfield, that's when they were ineffective. In almost every single one of their losses, that is the consistency you see. Most notably being when they went to London, came out of halftime with a 10-point lead, and Rodgers literally threw it away because he didn't want to throw the ball short in front of the London crowd, giving the Giants enough time to come back and overtake them. So when we look at the Green Bay Packers offense, Bob, I know that you're disappointed in their utilization of Aaron Jones and Dillon. I want to give you a chance to take the floor with that.
So what I know about the Green Bay Packers is when you watch this team, I am not a Green Bay fan. So if you are a Green Bay fan, please help me understand how you're feeling in this scenario. When you have 2 almost elite level running backs at your disposal, you have a Hall of Fame quarterback at your disposal, you have a young electric wide receiver at your disposal, and you throw games away. How do you feel? How do you manage your emotions? Living in Wisconsin, living in Minnesota, and you are thinking time after time, well, there it goes. Oh, there it goes again. Well, we had a chance. Because all fans think like this, but I feel more so than ever that this was the story of the Green Bay Packers this year. You could see it in so many games where Rodgers would hone on some guy, usually it was Christian Watson, and he'd say, I'm going to throw you the ball as many times as I can, and I'm going to throw it to you 40 yards down the field. You either catch it or you don't. Well, you have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, Two guys that all fantasy people will know as guys that you drafted probably in the first and second round. Now, when you look at what they put out on the field, Aaron Jones, now correct me if I'm incorrect here, had more yards receiving than rushing this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, that shouldn't happen. And if it does happen and you don't trust your rushing attack enough, you're going to lose games. Because as we said about the New York Giants, wherein the New York Giants had a really good rushing attack that could keep them just above water in certain games that they were ahead in, the Packers couldn't. Because if the Packers were relying strictly on Aaron Rodgers is at the point of his career right now where he really doesn't have anything left to prove to me. I already understand that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he's got something going on here that is taken away from the product on the field. And you can see this on a game-by-game basis, where you said, Joe, earlier, you said, he stops throwing here and here because he wants to show out and he wants to make sure that he can get it down the field. Well, why? Why? You could be winning a game and you totally give up on Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones should be seeing 20 to 22 carries a game. A.J. Dillon should be seeing 10 to 12 to 15 carries a game. And when I said all year, oh, is this an A.J. Dillon or an Aaron Jones game? It was a neither game, almost consistently throughout the whole year. And with two elite level talents, teams would kill to utilize these two players on their team. I can think of 7 teams right now that could use Aaron Jones, and I can think of 15 teams right now that can use A.J. Dillon. And they could use them more effectively than the Packers did this year. So, Joe, the question that I have for you is, when you look at the bright spots of Green Bay's season, it's not the running backs, so who is it?
Well, the running backs are certainly talented. The offensive line, like I said, is one of the few in the NFL that you can run between all the gaps. The capability is there. And the bright spot to me is the fact that they have the ability, but when it came down to they needed to win out, which is what happened in the Packers season, Aaron Rodgers honed himself in. Now, maybe LaFleur's the one who pulled him in. Maybe Rodgers did it himself. But they did start giving the ball much more to Jones and to Dillon. And I think the high point that caps that is when they were playing against the Rams in Week 15, they got the ball back with just a tick under 9 minutes, and they killed the clock all the way until the end of the game. That was something that the team, while capable of doing, chose not to do on the field when it was said and done the beginning half of the year. And the reason I put that distinction on there is because we can only judge based upon the tape they put on the field. And the end of the day was the line was capable. The line is fairly underrated in terms of the fact that it can do both. Most lines in the NFL are either pass or run, seldom can handle both. And Green Bay is incredibly blessed in the fact that they can have that. So where they are not blessed, however, is the defensive line. There are still teams that can be running on the Green Bay Packers right now. And Green Bay Packers defense is making their pass defense look better than it is. Simple fact was teams ran so well against the Packers the entire season, they didn't need to throw on them. So when we look at stats that rate defenses just on accumulation of yards, the Green Bay pass defense doesn't look all that bad, but it also wasn't tested that much. Again, because if you can run the ball nonstop and you can keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, why wouldn't you do that? It's the natural play calling decision to do that. And we think about games like the first time that Detroit would play Green Bay when it was at Detroit. Detroit was essentially just trying to hover in that game and not get blown out by Aaron Rodgers by running the ball themselves. Now, granted, Rodgers then throws 3 interceptions that game, 2 in the red zone, and Detroit then starts taking away with it. But teams were trying to control the ball against the Packers defense, and that's what happened. And you cannot win in the NFL if you cannot stop the run. Even as much pass happy this league is, the number one thing you cannot allow is teams to run all over you. So, Bob, I want to give you a chance to give the final thoughts of the 2022 Green Bay Packers.
I think a lot has to be said this year. We're going to be saying it a lot as we look back on teams. Teams have to get better at defending the run. And a lot of teams, the successful teams that we see in this league, are teams that either are facing incapable running backs or are teams that can actually stop the run. This is something that keeps you in games. The reason stopping the run is so important is that you are never out of a game if you can stop the run. And that can be said, and it is absolutely true. If you can stop the run, you protect against people icing the clock against you. If you are down by 3 or you're down by 7 with 4 minutes left, and you're facing a team of very capable running backs, and you can stop them before they can get multiple first downs, you have a good chance to come back in this game. The Green Bay Packers are a team, like you said, that have the capabilities to do so much more than what they put out on the field this year. And when we think about what they did this year, it's disappointing. If you're a Packers fan, you're disappointed. If you are a fan of Aaron Rodgers, you're absolutely disappointed in what he turned out. There is not one thing that I could say to say, Packers fans, don't be disappointed, because why not? You expected to be winning the division. You came in third. You expected to be in the playoffs. You didn't make it. The Giants did. The Seahawks did. And those are teams that were way beneath you at the beginning of the season. And so when it comes down to what I see is happening with this specific version of the Green Bay Packers, is when you look back at what happened, is everything is there. It's all there. It's, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to put it through our division? And, when push comes to shove, are we going to get out of our heads and make good decisions? And this year the Packers didn't. And hopefully they can next year.
Thank you for watching the Packers. Right here, we're going to have other footage from every other team we've done of the NFC North. And over here is our next team, the LA Rams. Stars and scrubs. Now the stars got hurt. Yeah.